Dear Father, as we study your word today, help us to see that you give us direction in your word, specifically what it means to hold up the hand of the prophets. As we study that, may we take this to our hearts so that we may be someone who is seen as being supportive. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay, quick review last week. Just so you know, we won't go all the way back. This is leaving over here, Goshen. Okay, they're going down the Sinai Peninsula. They don't go this way because this is where the Egyptians had built all their fortresses. This is called the King's Highway. To this day, if you want to go from Egypt and you want to go up to Israel, this is where the route goes. You don't really want to take that route because right here, okay, this is the Palestinians live right there. And it's basically an island that's surrounded by Israel. So God sends them down here. They get to about here, and they already start having problems. Their problems being not enough food and not enough water. We talked about that a little bit. Talked about manna. Okay, spiritual conditioning. Now why? There we go. Yeah, see, maybe I aim it over. There we go. Okay, complainer. Okay, Hebrew word. Anybody remember it? Loon. That means complaining. Loon. They were complaining about everything. Okay. God sends them manna, and this is where we'll pick up. Okay, what indicates, I asked you to read through this, what indicates that the manna was not natural? Okay, there were three things that it couldn't have been a natural thing. There's a Hebrew, Arabic word, man, and it refers to a little plant that sends up a sweet, like nectar. So it sounds like manna, but how do you know it could not have been just natural? Give me a, please.
It was 1 day a week or it would rot before it.
Yep, 1 day a week it would rot before. And when you picked it on Friday, it lasted 2 days. Other than that, every single day it rots. Give me another reason. Yeah, just enough for everybody. I have 2 grandsons. One can eat like a pig. Asher can just stuff himself. It's like, you got to stop. You can't eat. Me eat. No, this can't be healthy. I don't know where it goes. It like evaporates. The other one eats like a bird. The manna was set up so there was enough manna for the Ashers of the world. Me eat. And there was just exactly the right amount for Judah, who would eat just a little bit. Okay? Anything else? I think one more thing. Please.
It melted if they didn't collect it before the sun.
Yep. It just melted away. And it fed a couple million people. Enough for each person. Didn't rot on the Sabbath. Enough to feed a couple of million people. Okay, now let's drop off to chapter 16, verse 3 and verse 6 and 7. What I want you to do then is I want you to take a look at that. Tell me the difference. Point, there's some Bibles over there. What point is Moses making? Joey, go ahead. Okay, you brought us out. Go to verse 6 and 7 now. How is that different? Somebody else want to read verse 6 and 7? Please, Jonathan.
Moses and Aaron said to all the Israelites, "In the evening you will know that it is the Lord who brought you out of Egypt, and in the morning you will see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your grumbling against him. Who are we that you should grumble against us?"
What's different? The people say, who led them out? Moses. Yeah, Moses. Good job. You know what? We're wearing out our sandals. Actually, they didn't. We're getting corns on our feet and blisters on our ankles and so forth. We're going to need ankle replacement surgery pretty soon. And then Moses, when he talks, what does he say? Please, Mike. Yeah. It's not me. You're grumbling against God. This isn't me that you're upset with. It's God. I talked to, and I can share this because I told him I would. Go to see Tristan Paustian. We go out for coffee about every 6 weeks. I just want to check up on him. Want to make sure he's okay. Just gives him a chance. He's by himself, and you're a young pastor, and being a young pastor is really dumb because you're so focused on wanting to, not in a bad way, but you just want to show that you're a pretty good pastor, And so, like the sermon, I sat down when I talked with each vicar. I go, you know what? We don't need you to impress us. We just need you to be the Tristan or the Chris or the Jacob that God has made you to be. And we talked, and he had a little bit of a struggle with somebody. He goes, I really need to tell them this, and he's going to be really mad. Situation, and I said, you know what? He can be mad because, Tristan, he's not mad at you. He's mad at God. And so you walk there, you're just dropping it off and saying, hey, wait a second, this isn't my opinion. This is, ultimately, your issue is not with me, it's with God. That's what Moses is saying. Ultimately, you may say that you're mad at me, Moses, but you're not. You're mad at God. Okay, let's go through, here's your first question. Exodus 16:13 and Numbers 11:31 and 32. This is the quail come, and there's just flocks of quail, and they wake up and they're able to eat lots and lots of quail, a little meat in the diet. This is a natural occurrence. Okay, manna was not. We saw why. This appears to be absolutely natural. You had a big flock of quail, winds blow, the quail end up on the ground, people eat quail, roasted quail. God does not always work supernaturally, okay? Most often in our lives, God works through natural means. Can you think of an example in your life where it was clear that God had arranged something for your benefit? So when you take a look at what was going on in that Sinai Peninsula, okay, looks like a cow's udder. This is how you, never mind. Sinai Peninsula looks like a cow's udder to me. A big flock of quail just get blown to where the children of Israel were. Okay? God had created the quail by natural means, and then God arranged it so the quail happened to be blown to right where the children of Israel were. Natural means very clearly arranged by God. Can you think of a time in your life where God arranged something and you look back now and you say, boy, it was clear that God's fingerprints were all over this? Anybody think of a... Please, Mary Jo.
In my life, I didn't have children right away, and it was 7 years before I got pregnant. And I met a really good friend who was also pregnant at that time, and actually 2 of them. not.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have to say, it is not arranged the whole timing issue.
Yep, timing. You turn around and you say, oh, at the time you're not recognizing because you can't see into the future. Please, Nancy.
The thing that always comes in my mind is, I remember when Dick and I were looking for our very first house, and we found one that was probably about 2 blocks away from where we were presently renting. And, oh, it was just what I wanted. It was $10 more than what we could afford. We knew. That sounds so insignificant now. So we didn't buy that house. And probably it was a week or so later, a man from St. Paul, who was a realtor, said, I have the house for you. It was on Thorndale Street. It was right across from St. Mark, which eventually led me to be called as a teacher at St. Mark for 22 years. Every time I look back at that, I always think about that $10. What a difference that made in my life. Had we taken that and, tried to get by, but it wasn't supposed to be.
Anybody else can think of one? Please, Ken.
This is a little personal, but I grew up being taught from people that I respected that Protestants will spend eternity in hell, and the worst of the Protestants would be Lutherans. And I'm not making this up. We were taught this. I don't know how seriously I took it because I don't dislike someone because they're different than me. That's just my nature. But I believed it from the standpoint of a spiritual truth. And through, I won't get into detail, but I met a Lutheran pastor that I thought I could slam dunk with my limited knowledge of Christian catechism, and I found, and I could just see God's hand in him because every question that I had for him, he answered in a way that made perfect sense to me, but I didn't believe it. So it put me in a situation where I had to, I wanted to prove him wrong with the Bible. I didn't know what the Bible said, but I really believed that if I read the Bible, I could show him that he was not looking at things correctly. And I won't call it a trick that God played on me, but it's the best thing that God could ever do for a human being, and that was my gift, because I like to read, Now, it's embarrassing for me to say this, because I was an idiot.
Oh, we've all been there. Yeah, we've all been there.
Just the fact that it's a Lutheran pastor after all that, and man, I just have to shake my head sometimes, because it's like, what are the odds of that really happening? Yeah.
And I think, too, that he moved you to the point where, okay, I'm going to have to start opening this up and studying. And you were studying for one reason, and God was going, nope, that's not the reason. No. I think on a big level, on a macro level, I think of just our work, the Vietnam War. It's a continuing source of just how God thinks so much above us. The fact that some guy and I'll just give you the quick little thing, and I haven't told you this before, so I don't think I know I'm not repeating myself. But all that illegal stuff that we were doing in Laos, when we were starting to cross the border illegally, we should not have been doing that. So forth, the guy that was doing that was not doing it for any reason such as the gospel. What he was doing was illegal. What happened, he came into contact with Hmong people. I mean, that's where the United States of America, got in contact with Hmong people. And then said, hey, fight for us, and if you fight for us, we will take care of you after we win. Well, of course, we didn't win. And then we honored the treaty, not with everybody, but especially with those that could prove that they had fought for the United States. They come here, bless you, they come here, become Christian, and establish relations with people back in Vietnam. And now you see just that growth of that gospel, all because this sounds harsh, But I'm going to stick with it. All because some warmongers were sitting in an office going, you know what? We're going to have to violate our Constitution, and we're going to have an undeclared war. I mean, that's what it was in Laos and Cambodia. They weren't thinking gospel, and God was saying, okay, you send them in there. I'm going to take this and turn it. There's nothing supernatural about any one of the 3 stories that we heard or mine. Sometimes in your life, God is not going to work supernaturally. I will tell you this now because I think it's so important going down the road. God is preparing certain things for you down the road. You have no idea. I have no idea what they are. It's going to involve a disappointment in your life. Maybe it's going to involve meeting somebody that at the moment you look around and you just go, they're not going to be that important to me. I don't even know their name. And you're going to look back in another 10 years or 15 years or however long, and you're going, boy, you know what was crazy? God brought me into contact with this person, and now this person is critical because fill in the rest of the blanks there. God has not ceased working the way he was working during the Exodus. Verse 19. How would using up the manna show trust? You are to eat all that manna. Eat it all. Sandy?
You're trusting the Lord's going to provide what you need for tomorrow.
Yep. You're going to trust that tomorrow when I wake up and I walk out, I lift up the flap on the tent and I look out and I'm going, please let there be manna. Please let there be manna. If there's no Egg McMuffin, please let there be manna. Please let there be manna. There's manna. Then God says, I don't want you to save any of it. I want you to eat it all because when you go to bed, I want you to think about this psychologically. Every night you go to bed and the refrigerator is empty. Every single night. You've eaten it all up. God says, eat it all up. Some guy said, I'm not going to eat it all up. I'm just going to save a little bit underneath the pillow or whatever they had. Then they wake up in the morning and it's just like, it's all rotten. Here is really, I think, I make an application towards first fruits giving. You know, there's a reason it's called first fruits giving. Because when the children of Israel, this is Deuteronomy 26, I think, the children of Israel went through and they took the first apple that came off the tree. Think of what that means. Not like I'm going to keep the first apple for myself and then we'll see whatever's left over. It's not just that they were giving the best of what they had. That's true. But I think there's a more profound lesson because really what they're doing is I'm taking this, I'm giving it to you, and I can give it to you with confidence because I know that you're going to make sure that I have enough. I'm going to encourage you with your offerings. You can trust God. If God says that if you give the first of what you have, he's going to provide for you. He has not yet lied to any of his children. He is not going to lie to you about this. This is one of the reasons why Vicar and I were talking about this, about the pros and cons of giving when you have electronic giving. And one of the reasons I like electronic giving is because I know from my own budget is that's coming out. I know it's coming out, as opposed to something happens, with a car or something, and then you look and you go, well, I don't really have much left over. Okay, and it doesn't mean that if you choose to do it a different way, that there's anything wrong with that. Not implying that at all. You do whatever you want to. But there is that one thing about electronic giving for myself, not necessarily for you, that I like because it's like, okay, this is what we give, the rest we'll arrange. And of course, that's a struggle for pastors just like everybody else. We'll go through this really quickly. This is the first example of the word Sabbath. Sabbath isn't used till Exodus chapter 16. Verse 29, we'll talk about this a little bit later on. The gift of a Sabbath is, the Sabbath day is a gift. I found this as I was doing my studying. I really like that idea. Do you view, this is not passive aggressive, okay? It's just a question. Do you view your church time as God's gift to you? That God is saying, hey, I got this little, today it's going to be about 48 minutes. I tried to lengthen it out. I couldn't find any way to. Sermon is 1,213 words, not the normal 1,200. But I don't think that extra 13 words is going to fill up 15 minutes. So just so you know, that God's gift to you, God is giving you a gift today. Your gift is to be able to sit and think about Him, to learn about Him. I need to think of it this way. Prepping a sermon, which is really hard, is that me thinking, you know what, God has given me a gift this week. He calls me Leon. He doesn't call me Pastor Ehlert. You know, Leon, I'm going to give you a gift. You're going to have to work really hard with this text. And I want you to revise it, and revise it, and revise it. And then I want you to think through if there's law and gospel, and how applicable it is. And then I want you to memorize, and memorize, and memorize. And then when you preach it on Saturday, I want you to go home and revise it one more time. Do I look at it that as like, dang, that's a lot of work, God. You know, it's like, or do I say, you know what, God, thank you for giving me this gift. This is my gift. I get to wrestle with your word. Sabbath day, I've never thought of it this way. This is why it's a gift to me to prepare for class. Never thought of it that way. Sabbath day was a gift to the children of Israel. Sunday morning, Saturday night, wherever. That's God's gift to you. Guess what I get to do? I just get, enough. Sabbath mile, we'll talk about that at a different time. I want to make sure I get to the next thing. Holding up the hands of the prophets. Why don't we read this? This is a really interesting little section here. I'm going to read it for you. I'll read it out loud. Then you go through and you can do a little thinking. We'll do a little talking. Amalekites came and attacked the Israelites at Rephidim. Moses said to Joshua, choose some of our men and go out to fight the Amalekites. Tomorrow we'll stand on top of the hill with the staff of God in my hands. So Joshua fought the Amalekites as Moses had ordered, and Moses, Aaron, and Hur went to the top of the hill. As long as Moses held up his hands, the Israelites were winning. But whenever he lowered his hands, the Amalekites were winning. When Moses' hands grew tired, they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. Aaron and Hur held his hands up, one on one side, one on the other, so that his hands remained steady till sunset. So Joshua overcame the Amalekite army with the sword. I'll finish it up here. Then the Lord said to Moses, write this on a scroll as something to be remembered and make sure that Joshua hears it, because I will completely blot out the memory of Amalek from under heaven. Moses built an altar and called it, the Lord is my banner. We can stop there. Okay. After noting how Aaron and Hur were helpers to Moses, and what happened when they did not help, what I want you to do is think of, I put 3 ways, it's arbitrary, 3 ways that you do or could support called workers. Okay, that would be one thing. What was my first question? Oh, why is it so critically important? What I want you to do is, why don't you take about 5 minutes. You can discuss this, around to yourself. If you're an extrovert, if you're an introvert, you can just stare down at your paper and wait for the 5 minutes to be over. I'm an introvert. We had breakout groups at SEM, and it was just like, oh man, I just hate breakout. How many of you hate breakout groups? Okay, I bet you I know what. Introverts, small group studies. I just want to look down at my paper. Somebody start talking. Do whatever you need to do to survive. That's, I guess, what I'm telling you right now. Try to come up with 3 things that you can do or are doing. And then what I'm going to do is I will tell you a couple of things that are particularly helpful I will be personal about for me, but then also when I look around and I think of other pastors. So, you had about 5 minutes. There you go. While you're doing this, I'm just going to make sure I got everything set for this. Okay, so that we have some time to discuss. First question, why is taking care of called workers? I put called workers just because here, we have a number of different titles. Why is it so important? Please, Mike.
If you don't take care of them, they lose interest, but I think they lose their fire for working with you.
Yeah. You know what, I really like the way you said with you and for you. I always try to make that when I write a prayer for the vicar or anybody, it's like that. He would be working with us and for us. I don't work for you, that's part of it, but I also work with you. There's always that synergy. Anybody else? Can you think of important reason? I'll just give you one. Oh, please, Ken, please.
Well, God does tell you to do that in the Bible. I mean, that would be, do what God says. That would be a pretty good reason.
Yep, that's good. You know what? That's probably the best reason of all, is that God says so. I had, and this is when I first got into the ministry, so it's nowhere around here. I had two guys that were down the road, different town from where I was, and whenever they had conference, you have conference, and then it's like $6 for lunch or something like that, and so forth. And the church would always say, well, we'll pay for your conference, but you're going to have to pay for your own lunch because you'd have to eat anyway. When calls rolled around, guess how long those guys stayed there? And after they left, guess how many guys were just like super interested in coming? You know, and eventually they got something, but one of the things that the district president, vice president, because I worked with him, he went over there and he said, I'm not even going to give you a call list. That doesn't make any sense. Just because, yes, you know, so then those guys started to, they would just bring bologna sandwiches to conference, and everybody would be eating, you know, whatever, and there'd be two guys with bologna sandwiches, and they would say, we say, why are you eating a bologna sandwich? And they go, because I don't want to pay $6, I got to eat, but I can eat, you know, for 85 cents back in 1991. There's a good example of not taking care of a called worker, and then those called workers were faithful. Those were faithful guys. Here's the thing, there are other places you can be faithful. It's not like this, like, okay, well, I'm just not going to be faithful now. It's like, hey, I can be faithful here, or I can be faithful someplace else where I'm appreciated. Well, guess what? They found a lot of other places to be faithful, and that's where they went. The other thing is, yeah.
But aren't we also told, I mean, Paul said this a lot, that we're supposed to lift them up with words of encouragement?
Yep, exactly right. Lift them up. Can you give me something that can or is being done? I don't necessarily have to toot your own horn, but something that you would think would be helpful for called workers. Please, Ken.
Well, first of all, recognizing that as a called worker, they're probably under spiritual attack more than a normal person would be. And my brother used to say that pastors' kids are tasty morsels for Satan. I always remember that because
That's good.
it's kind of like you're walking around with a target on your back because Satan wants to create scandal and wants to create mistrust and all the rest of it. So praying, I think, for called workers would be, you know, almost at the top of the list.
Yep, I think praying. I think, too, recognizing, you know, that it is a different dynamic raising kids as pastors' kids than others. And I don't know if it's so hard for me because I didn't really think about it, but there was a huge difference. I'm sure my mom would agree. Raising me as a non-pastor's kid when I made mistakes, and then the implications for when one of my kids made a mistake. Because there's always that part, it's like, oh boy. Another thing that you can think of, helpful for called workers. Please, Sandy.
When we volunteer to assist, we're helping out with a lot of the mundane where we don't have the education to help, and they do. And it frees up their time so that they can go more in depth with people.
Yeah, good. Volunteering. Other things that you can think of. Please, Mike.
It goes back to the bologna sandwich, just to make sure that you have adequate space for your physical life and you're just going forward with it.
Financial.
Good. Anything else that you can think of? Jonathan, you look like you're thinking really hard, but then it's like you're not going to raise your hand, so.
I remember I am a pastor's kid, so I think as a pastor, as a called worker, you carry a larger burden. I mean, those who desire to be in that position desire a noble task, right? And you think of the implications, they're not just temporal, they're eternal, right? So there's a lot of be a lot of stress with that, and being available to whether it's just a listening ear or just knowing that there is somebody there to support you, the called worker, is huge.
Yeah, you know what, and that's interesting you said that, because that would be one of the ways that, you know, when I look for ways to support other called workers, and ways that I would like to be supportive is just, you know, that there would be somebody there that would be interested in your struggles, that you would be supportive. I tried to do that with the Vickers. That's why I went out with Jacob for dinner last week after Asian conference, just to sit down with him. How is school going? You're getting ready? I try to make sure I call Tony, call Tony. I send Tony an email regularly, Dan Kingsbury an email regularly. Hey guys, how's it going? Just letting you know I'm concerned. Pastors in the circuit, anybody who has a call, I will call them and just say, hey, you know what? I'm thinking about you. You need anything, talk to me. Also, and then, of course, and here's the thing. Pastors are not always as supportive of other pastors as they could be. You know, and that's why I don't want this to look like, here's the dichotomy. It's like, okay, well, here are the pastors, and like, here's the laity, and what is the laity supposed to be doing, you know, to support us? I take this also as a mirror, because pastors are not always as supportive of other pastors as they could be. Pastor Diesler, you agree or no? Agree. Yep, agree. That's one of the things that here I take very seriously. I hope, and if you ever hear me say anything negative about a pastor in the area, you tell me that that's inappropriate. That should not come out of my mouth. Those are my brothers. Those are my brothers. I need to support them. Even when I don't always agree with them, because, of course, you don't always agree with me, and I don't always agree with you, but that has nothing to do with support. That's just saying, hey, we see things two different ways. Anybody else? You come up with one, please, Mary.
It was to support them would be just be present. Come to hear the word.
Yep.
Be present at church. Just to be
Yes, and you know, that was one of the things I had put down, is that when, and this is maybe just human, but if we would have church and suddenly we would have, you know, like 200 people in church for the weekend, there would be part of me that would go, what am I doing wrong? You know, is there something that I'm not, maybe the sermon, maybe I didn't arrange what's going on. Just your being here is I think Bible class, I look around, this is almost every week I get done with Bible class and I'm just going, look at all these people. And then some people already excused. You don't need to excuse to me, but if you do, that's fine as well. This is one of those things, I put work into it, and I get done and I go, oh, the work that I put in was appreciated. Okay? The last thing is just a personal thing, and I debated whether I should say this or not. It's not bad, and I'm glad Mike's not here, because he would be back there. You know how I ever noticed how Mike does this? He goes, it's like you're never guessing when Mike... One encouragement you could give me is, and maybe my mom would even know this, is encourage me to be taking vacation. That is very helpful. I spent a year where I didn't take any vacation. It was 54 weeks, no vacation. Just didn't. There was always a reason for not taking vacation. People have told me that's not healthy. So I think what I'm asking you to do something for me, is just to say, hey, you know what? You've been in the ministry 28 years, you have 4 weeks of vacation, at least take 2. That's a good place to start. And I'm very sensitive, and just always have been, maybe because I was so lazy when I was going through school. I'm very sensitive to not appearing lazy. And I think sometimes it becomes overly important to me when it shouldn't. I want you to know that I am a hard worker. I work hard for you. Whether you see it or not, I work hard for you. And therefore, I'm going to be a little touchy about, oh, we haven't seen you for so long. What have you been doing? And it's like, well, nothing. So if you would do that for me, I would appreciate that, and I think ultimately that would be the way that you could hold up my hands, is just to say, Pastor Ehlert, I want you to take your vacation. You have vacation, I take my vacation, we want you to take your vacation. Please, Sandy.
I can see where it would look that way, and especially to some people, they might say, oh, well, it's nice, he can go on vacation, but you know, it restores your soul. It helps you change your focus back on what your mission is,
Yep.
and you need it.
Yep. I think so. So you keep reminding me of that, and that will be a great blessing to me. And then we don't have to tell Mike that I brought this up, okay? This is confidentiality. He's not here. He doesn't need to know. You can just text him, yeah. Okay, next week what we're going to do is we're going to break. I have to go to, like I said, I'm going to be in Michigan. I'll do the wedding. The wedding's at like 4, so what I'm going to do is I will drive back Monday morning, but I'll be back by noon. I got some stuff that I want to do. There's a great example of what I should not be doing. What we're going to do is Pastor Diesler is going to take you through, on the Mount Sinai, God gave 3 sets of laws: civil, moral, ceremonial. He is going to walk through with you the ceremonial laws. He's just going to kind of go through it, and it's kind of a worksheet. I got it all written out, and you already have it, right? So it'd be a little like what kind of foods, what kind of rules did they have? Why did they have those rules? There you have it. Then the next week I'll be back, and we'll be finishing up, talking to you specifically about some sacrifices, and sacrifices. Let's close with a blessing. Grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the fellowship of the Spirit be with us. Amen. All right, blessings to you. I'll give you a slap.